Hi there, I am Dr. Siki, Gwanya-Mdletye, and in this brief video, I will be chatting through some key ingredients, some key components of a healthy work culture in regards to mental illness in the workplace. So what are those key ingredients? This list that I'm going to give is by no way exhaustive. This is just my thoughts at the end of a long day, and feel free to add some of what you think are important in the comments. I would suggest that I think one important one is leadership that models empathy, and leadership that to an extent models safe vulnerability. So leadership that will openly talk about mental health and perhaps even to an extent, in as much as is appropriate, their own experience with mental health and mental illness. That level of vulnerability softens or does not allow for stigma to thrive, because it says, look, it's okay, it's normal. People go through stuff and that's normal, right? So leadership and the way in which leadership model attitudes towards mental health, I think, is an important ingredient. I think also beyond just awareness about mental health, it's important that leadership within an organization are not discriminating. Employees that live with mental illness are not overlooking employees with mental illness, and don't become dismissive to the experiences of people with mental illness. So holding them accountable, holding specifically the leadership within an organization accountable. And how do we do this? Firstly, the policy framework or the policy environment within the organization. It's important that it reflects this and that it creates those opportunities for accountability about the mental health of subordinates beyond just awareness, and then linking into that feedback systems, right? Linking into that systems that interrogate, how am I doing as a leader in creating a safe environment for people that live with mental illness in my under my leadership, right? I think also training of everyone, but especially training of the leadership in terms of how do we recognize mental health distress, and how do we support individuals that appear to be struggling in regard to their mental health. So we are trained, or in the organization we train the leadership to recognize signs of mental health distress, to refer concerns and not to stigmatize, and not to turn it into a formal HR process that is disciplinary in nature, that can result in one being dismissed, that is punitive in nature, right? Because I think if our training allows for our leadership to be that perceptive, it then makes the organization safe for one who is struggling with mental illness to be vulnerable and not feel judged, and not feel that they will be punished within the organization. So I think it's important to think through that within the training or the upskilling of the leadership within the organization. To what extent are we upskilling our leadership to recognize, to respond to refer subordinates that appear to be struggling in terms of their mental health. I think also if our organization celebrates resilience as much as how it celebrates performance, right? Our policies reward resilience in as much as they reward performance. This could look, for instance, like when someone who was booked off work, maybe for a prolonged time as a result of mental illness, when they do come back to work, that the process of their reintegration into the workplace is one that says, wow, you went through this difficult challenge in your life, and even in spite of that, you have found it in yourself to come back to work, to give it a go. Well done, right? Well done. And how can we support you to make that transition bearable, to make that transition practical, so that you are back into the workplace and you are finding your feet with ease. And when you are struggling, you feel free to speak up, so that because you know you will be supported. Yeah. So celebrating resilience, not just focusing on purely just performance. It's my firm belief that in celebrating resilience, we do actually end up in improving performance. So yeah, that's my take. Those are my thoughts. And as I said, please feel free to share in the comments. What are your thoughts? What do you think is important components or important ingredients that add to or that make an organization safe for people living with mental illness, that make an organization more inclusive for people with more mental illness? All the best, and I hope the video was helpful. And if you are struggling with mental illness, I hope you are making use of services from your primary health provider, from your psychologist, your therapist, or even from your psychiatrist. And if you're a leader within an organization, I certainly hope that thinking through these things equip you to create that environment in your organization that is not only diverse, but that is equally inclusive. Thanks.